Hello, welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja, and today is kind of a cool day. It is the 19th of September, and this is old news to everybody by now, but patch 8.8 is out on the North American server, finally. So we've got our new Russian line is out, which is pretty cool. We've got a couple of new German tanks out, new maps in the rotation, and the changes to the Chinese premium tanks have been made. So, because I'm a tank collector, I picked up a 112 and a T-34-3, and I also decided I hadn't really been enjoying my Super Pershing for months. I wasn't liking it. I was not hearing encouraging things about it. And since I was never driving it anyway, I decided I was going to turn it into free experience. So I sold my Super Pershing back for gold, and I've been free experiencing quite a lot of stuff, actually. I've already got the 105mm gun for my M48 patent and some other upgrades. I've been picking up a lot of new tanks lately, so it's been pretty cool. But anyway, that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're here to look at some Russian tank destroyers, and this comes from some comments I had on my channel by a guy named Jugger. And the first off, he saw. Let me take a look here. I want to make sure I'm being fair, so I'm just gonna pull up what I want to look at and just read it straight off. I posted a video called Object 704, Burninating the Countryside. And I've got a couple of other replays up where I just did really good in my 704. And Jugger left the following comment: "Damn, dude, you're a wild man in that thing. Do a tutorial so I can get some pointers on how to drive my 704. Love it, do lots of damage in it, but I just can't get the wins." So that was kind of the first thing that prompted this. I started thinking about what I would do as a sort of kind of like an Object 704 tutorial thing. I haven't really made any specific things like that, really, so I wasn't sure what to do. And the other thing that I thought of was some other comments left by him on my World of Tanks Advice Number 6 video, the Knowing Your Role video, where he said that he was really liking the live commentary instead of just being able to cherry pick really good games. And that kind of hit me. I've been watching some Side Strafe lately, and Side Strafe does a lot of live commentary. And I don't know if I'm very good at it, to be honest, but I kind of enjoy doing live commentary. But the problem is, if I sit down and play World of Tanks and I do live commentary on it, in a few hours I have 50 games of live commentary, and I'm never going to upload all of those. I'm never going to upload most of those. So I sort of almost find it to be kind of a waste of time. But I thought with this 704 tutorial thing that he kind of requested, I thought probably one of the best ways I could do it was actually to do it live. And so now that I've gotten the kind of waffling about and explaining what I'm up to, let's get down to business. This thing right here, you've all seen it, you all know it by now. It's the Object 704, and I really like this TD. It's really fun. I never had it when it was a new addition to the game during beta or early period in release. I've heard that it was just heinously better than it is now, and it is still good. So I know some people that had it back in the day, and they say the 704 is a shadow of its former glory, but I'll tell you what, this is a damn dangerous shadow. And obviously the big to-do about the object is the gun, the 152mm BL-10. And I will quickly say one thing about the BL-10. It's pretty good. That's kind of an understatement, but I just got this bad boy, the T-30, and I've got the 155mm gun for the T-30 now, and I would switch this gun for the BL-10 like instantly. The T-30's gun is a good gun, but it's a poor man's BL-10. Like, it just worse rate of fire, worse accuracy, longer aiming time. Just I seem to get way worse RNG. What did I just do? I seem to get way worse RNG with the T-30's gun, and the BL-10 is a gun that is infamous for bad RNG. So, I mean, that just says a lot. So what makes the object so special is this gun, but it's also one of the biggest dangers to the Object 704 driver is this gun. So we're going to take a look at the gun, and then we're going to take a look at a couple other things, and then we'll start doing some live battles, and hopefully we'll get some good examples of what I'm talking about. So the first thing about this gun is it actually has a fairly good rate of fire for such a powerful gun, 3.51 rounds per minute. That's actually pretty good. Very high penetration, 286 penetration. Basically, in my personal opinion, there's no reason to carry premium ammo in this tank. Just keep your standard AP. 750 average damage. That's kind of the main feature of the BL-10 is the 750 average damage, which is very good. And also, the gun is not very accurate, 0.39 accuracy, and the aiming time is fairly long at 2.9 seconds. So that stuff is going to play into how you want to drive this tank. For such a powerful gun with this much alpha damage, it does have a fairly good rate of fire, but don't confuse a fairly good rate of fire with an actual good rate of fire. You definitely want to take cover on your reloads with this tank destroyer. And I apologize for the TeamSpeak 3. Our clan is starting to get more strict on. They want us in TeamSpeak all the time if we're online, and I am online, so I'm in TeamSpeak. Now, a couple of things about the long reload and the accuracy of the gun. If you've got an Object 704, that means you've played this, the SU-152, which I like to call the boom truck. You've played this, the ISU-152, and you now are in the 704. So if you've made it up to the 704, you have a lot of experience with Russian tank destroyers and their gunnery characteristics. And so, you've used this 152mm howitzer on the boom truck, which I personally think is the best gun available for it. You've used the BL-10 on the ISU, and in fact, you've used a BL-10 that's not as good. Worse accuracy, longer aiming time, slower reload, and now you've got the BL-10 on the Object 704. Now, so because you've already been playing these Russian tank destroyers, you're used to the low accuracy, you're used to the long reload, you're used to the long aiming time, and you're used to the, what am I thinking of here? You're used to just the vagaries of those guns. So it shouldn't come really as any surprise that the Object 704 continues in that same vein. The gun acts similar. So just kind of, remember, don't unlearn what you've already learned from your SU-152 and your ISU-152, because most of those lessons are going to stick with you when you get to the 704. I want to say right now that your commander on this tank destroyer needs 6 cents. I have moved my good crew from my 704 up to my Object 268, so this is a new crew, and I don't feel like wasting crew skill or wasting gold or credits to do crew retraining. Man, I'm a little tongue-tied. So even though this isn't giving me any actual crew bonus right now, I just put 6 cents on this guy straight away, so that way when it gets to 100, it's at 100 and I don't have to worry about it. Now, my personal recommendation is that I would do 6 cents for the commander immediately and camouflage for everyone else right away, because you want to avoid being detected. That's your number one defense with this tank. You want to avoid being detected. Subsequent crew skills after 6 cents and camouflage for your whole crew is I would do, as a number 2 skill for the commander, I would do camouflage. For your gunner, Let's just take a look at skills. Where are they? Why can't I look at your skills? There they are. I am a derp. Okay, so for gunner skills for this, as a number 2 skill, I would honestly probably go with repairs on the gunner. On the driver, I would definitely go with clutch braking, possibly off-road driving. It's a little bit of a coin flip. It's a little bit of a coin toss whether or not I would do clutch braking before I would do off-road driving. The pros and cons of that are fairly easy to understand. The downside of taking off-road driving over clutch braking is off-road driving is giving you a little bit of improvement to every aspect of driving, whereas clutch braking is giving you a big improvement to one specific part of maneuvering the vehicle, and that is turning only. So you can make a really good case for both. Basically, my rule of thumb is whatever you take as your number 2 skill, take the other one as your number 3 skill on the driver. So if you go clutch braking first, go off-road driving third. That would be my advice for that. With the loaders, I would give one of them safe stowage, just because you have a long reload time. If you get ammo racked, it's going to really, really suck. And I would give the other one repair. And even though you only have a couple of guys getting repair as a second crew skill, the ability to get your tracks back on faster from just those 2 guys will actually be pretty noticeable. And once you start getting into third crew skills, honestly, I would probably get repair third on the commander. I would probably get, like, say, maybe snapshot or something on the... I'm not sure what I would get as a third crew skill, actually, for the gunner. Probably Deadeye, actually, just to add insult to injury with this gun. With the driver, I already mentioned that. And with the loaders, my third crew skill would be making sure they both had repair. And then after that, just kind of whatever you want. Maybe, like, if one of them's got radio operator skills, situational awareness, anything like that. Third crew skill on the second loader, that's a wild card slot. Just whatever you think would make sense. Moving on, my personal recommendation for equipment for this tank destroyer is gun rammer, improved ventilation, and camouflage net. And I actually fiddled with my equipment setup a lot before I was happy with my object. At first, I had standard tank destroyer setup with gun rammer, camo net, and binoculars. But I found that I was playing either as a mobility tank destroyer or I was playing as a mid-range tank destroyer a lot, where the camo net and the binocs weren't helping me really at all. Either that or I was playing behind everyone and I wasn't doing any of my own spotting, so the binoculars were a complete waste, and the mobility and the gun accuracy and reload time really needed to be improved. So I decided to switch out the binoculars for ventilation, and I think that was absolutely 100% the right choice. You could make a case for a gun laying drive on this tank, but I think that a camouflage net is more valuable, because even though you do play as a mobile tank destroyer quite a lot in the Object 704, you still find yourself attempting to remain hidden in bushes quite often. And with the relatively low armor, relatively low hit points, and relatively poor overall mobility of the tank, I really think the camo net is worth it. So, I considered a gun laying drive. I considered coated optics because, like I said, I was playing a lot as a mobility vehicle, so coated optics would give me a view range boost all the time. But the camo net really seemed to work. So this is the equipment setup I've gone with, and I think it works pretty well for consumables, the Holy Trinity. If you want to use a large repair kit to help with repairing your tracks faster, that's definitely valid. But even with the amount of premium tanks I play, and even with a premium account all the time, personally I still find that to be too costly. And I do not rate improved speed governors on this. I don't use speed governors ever, really, because I think that the risk to reward is not worth it. You risk possibly burning completely to death in order to get a little bit faster. I don't think that's really worth it any of the time. And when I set good players on fire and do just massively over the odds on damage to them, I just sit there and I think noob, 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 noob. So, I mean, I bring fire extinguishers all the time on everything. So I would advise that on this TD as well. And the last thing that I want to kind of mention real quick before we get into battle is this. If you've played up to the Object 704, you've had the boom truck, you've had the ISU, now you've got this thing. You're used to big alpha damage, and on the ISU, it just feels amazing because you're sitting there popping out 750 average damage, BL10 shells. If you're in a tier 8 match, if you roll average, I think you can 2-hit everything you encounter. You can 1-hit a lot of the tier 6s. Even if you get a bad damage roll with the ISU, you can still just savage almost everyone you come up against. Well, you have to be a lot more careful about that in the Object 704 because the health pool of the targets you're shooting at has gone way up. You're not getting to shoot at tier 6s anymore, where if they have 800 health, they've got a lot. You're shooting at tier 7s, where if they don't have very much health, they still have 1100 health. Although I guess tier 7 tank destroyers usually only have about 850 HP, so you can really brutalize a tier 7 TD in one hit from this tank. But tier 7 mediums generally have about 1100 health. Tier 7 heavies generally have 1200 to 1400 health. So even the low tier opponents for the object, just their hit points pool has gone up so much that you have to start being a little more careful with your BL10 and relying on the massive alpha damage to keep you safe. When you fight tier 10s, you really have to worry about it because, a 750 damage hit to an IS-7, which is a low HP tier 10, that's a big hit, but he's still going to take two more of those hits on average before he dies. So just remember that, you've got the big alpha, but don't get too confident in it. Don't sit there and think, all right, I can two-shot kill everyone I encounter, because with a 704, you cannot two-shot kill everyone you'll encounter. You're going to four-shot a lot of them, and that's assuming an average roll. You need to rely on your gun doing a minimum damage roll. The moment you say to yourself, okay, I can take the risk because I'll one-hit kill this guy on average, that is the time that you will roll a 563 damage hit, and that is the minimum possible damage that this gun can put out. So every time you fire this gun, do not assume 750 damage. Definitely do not assume an above-average roll. Sit there and think to yourself every time you fire that you're going to do 563 damage. Okay, so we've been in the garage now for way longer than I wanted. I was really I meant to keep the garage time down to like 10, 12 minutes. It's now been 19 minutes and 8 seconds, so we are going to get into battle, and I apologize for that. Alright, we're loading into battle in the Object 704. This is an encounter battle on Himmelsdorf. It is a tier 9 match, and there are a lot of tier 9s. It's about 50% tier 9s on each team. Our team has a lot of reds in the top. Their team has 3 greens and a purple in the top. So that's something to be aware of. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do. I'm going to go up the hill, because if you win the Himmelsdorf hill in an encounter mode battle on Himmelsdorf, you can then swing down and encircle the cap. If you lose the Himmelsdorf hill in Himmelsdorf encounter, The enemy swings down and encircles you on the cap. So I'm going to go up the hill. I'm not really relishing the prospect of combat on the hill in this sort of a matchup, but realistically, they're going to need my gun up there. So if I don't go up there, I'm going to be shafting my team. Generally, I don't like to shaft my team. I try to do good. My team shafts me enough that they don't need me to shaft them right back. So we're going to go up the hill even though I don't want to. I'm very happy to see the enemy E-75 not on the hill. That is a dangerous tank. And I don't mind not having to fight him in a location of his own choosing. Okay, so I don't have the armor to be trading HP on that corner, and I can't traverse my gun on a turret, so I don't really want to fight on that corner. I'm going to fight over here, and I'm going to just let somebody drive around to me, or I'm going to let a friendly kind of poke their way around and see what's there. Okay, we got a T-34. Boom, alright, we can do a lot of damage to a T-34. Okay, so we just fired. We've got our 14.5 second reload on this gun. So after we fire, we're going to pull back and we're going to get safe. We're definitely used to doing that with our Soviet TDs with their long reload times. So nothing new there. Alright, we're going to finish the T-34. Okay, see, I just relied on my gun to hit, penetrate, and kill. Luckily for me, the T-34 only hit my tracks, because I also only hit his tracks. Now, remember, I'm playing with about a 40% crew, I think, so I have no sixth sense, I have no repairs. Repairing my tracks takes forever. Okay, we got an enemy Jagdtiger in front of us, he's side on. Let's try to, yeah, there we go, we fired clutch into the Jagdtiger. This is a gun, like on most Russian tanks, that you only want to fire it when it's fully aimed, but there's an exception to every rule. There are times when you just cannot wait for your gun to aim fully, so you fire clutch. I fired clutch into the side of the Jagdtiger and was rewarded with a hit. If I'd waited any longer, the Jagdtiger would have gotten away, and he was just too valuable of a target for me to let get away completely free. Okay, so we've lost the 8 line and we're losing the cap. We need to push up here. So this is where things are going to get pretty ballsy. I'm going to willingly drive in front of the Jagdtiger. Hope he doesn't shoot me. Okay, that was lucky. He wasn't looking at me, and there's a lot of backup with me, so we're rolling down the hill. We have a pretty long time to get to the cap and reset it, but I think I'm still going to start heading over there as soon as I can. Now, this is a good example of what I mean when I say the 704 has relatively poor mobility. To be able to make that hairpin turn, I had to come to a full stop and turn my tank on the spot. I couldn't drive around it because I just don't have the turning speed to actually make that corner. So, the tank has good straight line speed, but it only has mediocre acceleration, and it really doesn't turn very well at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to press into the rear of the enemy tier 9s and try to attack through them to the cap. Because as I go to the cap, I want to knock out the most dangerous enemies that I can, so that I don't have to fight them over there. That's my plan. We're going to see how that works. Alright, so we're going to use our low profile to stay in cover from the E-75 until we can get close enough for a shot. The E-75 is looking at us, so is the object. E-75's on lower health, but he's more difficult to pen. I'll go for the 704 first. I left the object 704 on about 26 health. That's not good. The E-75's coming for me, but what I want to do is... Balls. That was not what I wanted to do. I want to get my gunner back up. That E-75 just got a massive damage roll. Okay, let's see if I can get his turret weak point. Nope. The enemy object was able to reload in time and kill me. So that was a bad match in a lot of ways, really. I feel like I performed all right, but in a lot of ways, I also felt like I had to do the role of a tier 9 heavy with object 704, and that's one thing that I just want to say as well as kind of an advice for this tank is it's a good tank, but it's not a heavy tank. You know, you can play it like a heavy, you can play it like a medium, but it's not either. So when you get into a situation like that where you're kind of forced to play it like a heavy or play it like a medium, you're going to be counting on a lot of luck to get you through it. And sometimes you just don't get it. Like, I got a little bit of luck when the enemy object shot me. He only did 653 damage, but on the flip side of that, I got some bad luck when the E75 shot me. He did 613 damage, which is a lot. That is a lot of damage for an E75. But anyway, well, you know, I feel like I did kind of what I could do for my team there, and it looks like we're actually going to win this. As I said at the beginning, we took the hill, and we're now pushing in to envelop the enemy team on the cap. So I'm going to switch over to one of our E75s. Let's see if these guys can pull off the victory. The longer they let those enemies linger, the lower our chance of winning becomes. Oh, there we go. We're down to 2. That tortoise needs to just drive around the corner and shoot the enemy tortoise in the back. Oh, he's got a shot on the 7-1. I didn't realize that. That is good. Okay, here comes the enemy tortoise. This tortoise is probably going to kill the C-75. Wow, what a horrible shot. T-30 is going man mode. That's what they need to do right now. They just need to man mode this guy. He's going to kill the E-75. Yes. Am I a bad person because I'm happy when bad players get killed? Maybe a little bit. Well, we won the game, though. That's nice. Alright, so we're going to take a look at some post-battle results. Put 2 into the Ag Tiger. Did not as much damage to him as I thought. Got a big hit on the object. We got a big hit on the IS-6. And a pretty good hit on the T-34. That battle definitely showed a couple of things that I really wanted to, that I was actually really hoping would happen. When I fired at that enemy T-34, he was on like 400 health, a penetrating hit, could not fail to kill him. So I rolled around the corner aggressive and I blasted him in the face. And I hit his track. You know, it happens. The BL-10 is legendary for it. You just have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for that to happen. So if you're going to go man mode around a corner on somebody, you try to do it when there's only one guy there. Because if there had been 3 people just sitting there ready to kill me, I would have died. Luckily for me, there was just the T-34, and we blew each other's tracks off. He was alone. I had backup. So that's what I was talking about when I said don't rely on the gun to do average damage hits. Also, at the end of the battle there, when I was kind of nose-to-nose with the E-75 and the enemy object, that brings up a pretty good point that I wanted to make, and it's that you can't play this tank like it has armor. You have 120 millimeter armor at the front, 90 at the sides, 90 at the or 60 at the rear. The 120 millimeter armor is fairly well sloped, but almost everyone shooting at you is going to be having a minimum of 200 pen, and most of them are going to be having closer to 250 or even 270. So your armor on the front of the 704 does not exist. You need to play it like it's got no armor. The only place frontally where you'll bounce shots very often is right here on the gun mantlet. And that mantlet's pretty big, but it still leaves something like 4/5 of the front of the tank vulnerable. The sides, yeah, they're butter. The rear, even worse. And the last thing, kind of on the with regards to the armor that I want to mention is when you back up into cover to reload this tank, angle it really sharply. Like, you know, if there's an enemy at the garage door right here, and I've just fired at them, and there's a rock to my left. Let's pretend there's a rock to my left, and we're gonna back up into cover. I want to angle as I back around that corner very, very sharply, and I want to do that for 2 reasons. First of all, a lot of people, even when you angle very sharply, even when they're looking at your tank like this, they will out of reflex shoot for your front or your lower plate. And with such a sharp angle on it, even with the thin armor, you can bounce shots. It is a complete roll of the dice. It's not something you should count on. This is a sort of a technique to generate miracle bounces, and it really only works against people who aren't very smart, because it relies on them shooting your front. And it can make them do stuff like fire at your front and hit the mantlet. The mantlet eats it. Or it can make them, they're not sure if they should fire at your front or at your side, so they just kind of fire. And, they hit your track and your track absorbs the damage. Alternatively, your track might get blown off and you might actually die because you were detracked. But, if there's enough stuff shooting at you to be able to alpha strike you down in like one hit like that, they might have just they might have just alphaed you down anyway. So you're not really losing anything, but you're gaining the possibility of eating damage on your tracks. And the well, kind of the last thing is that it just gets you into the cover faster. All right, so that was one battle, and this recording has been going on for about 12 minutes now. So this is going to be a pretty long video. I'm going to try and get a couple of more battles in here. Let's see if we can get at least one more battle in, and maybe two. So this is going to be a pretty long video, but I hope it's a beneficial one. Alright, so we're loading into a second battle in the Object 704. Muravanka encounter, you can see it's a tier 10 match. 2 tier 10 TDs on the enemy team, 2 tier 10 TDs on our team. Quite a few tier 9s. It looks like about half of the remainder of both teams is tier 9s and then half tier 8s. So this isn't, this matchmaking's not too bad, but it could be better. Let me see here. The enemy's got a 215B 183. That is really bad because that guy can fire hash at any part of this tank and kill it in one shot. So basically, we cannot allow ourselves to get hit by the 183 or we're dead. Also, the enemy's Foch is really dangerous. We've got good players in our tier 10 TDs, and look, we've got some good tier 9s as well, so that's nice. Okay, I'm gonna come to the woods side on this map, and I come to the woods for a couple of reasons on Encounter Muravanka. I'd never come to the woods on Standard Battle Muravanka, but on Encounter mode, I come over here a lot, and I'm gonna let my teammates kill that 1390. That's the idea anyway. I don't want to get shot right now while that guy's doing a spawning run. Okay, he's dead. I come over to the woods on this map a lot, and the reason why is because, good God, is because I think that the focus on encounter battles needs to be away from the capture circle, because once you take everything that is not the capture circle, it gives you map control of the entire map, and you can then proceed to envelop the entire enemy team in one open, in one small area that is usually very, very open. Okay, we're going to try and kill shot this guy. Oh, he died way too fast. I've never taken the object over into that bush before. I usually use that bush for mediums, so I didn't realize just how obscured my line of sight was going to be. We're going to try and finish the enemy 704. Got him. Kind of kill picking there at only 360 HP. But that guy was one of their best players, and he has a very dangerous gun. Okay, our Leopard prototype just took an 800 damage hit. That's telling me that the E4 is in the woods. That is why I keep a damage panel mod on my game, because I can gather a lot of information about what is attacking me just based on how much damage I'm sustaining when I get hit. So I saw that the Leopard prototype took an 800 damage hit. There are only 2 vehicles in this match that are capable of dealing an 800 damage hit. One was the E4, and the other was the 183. If it had been a 183 shooting him, he'd be dead. So I knew that it had to be the E4, and I was right, it was. Wow, that Foch evaporated so fast I couldn't even traverse and fire. We're going to try and get a hit into this Conqueror right here. Probably took his track off. What we're trying to do right now is we're just trying to use our big alpha damage to find the highest HP target and blast its health down as much as possible in one shot. That's something I do a lot with the 704. I don't go for low health targets unless it's a really important kill. I go for the guy with the most HP. Like, well, I can't see the other two dudes anymore, so I'm going to go for the Conqueror. But if the IS-8 was still spotted, I would go for the IS-8 because he's got the most HP. If I blast off 700 HP of that IS-8, he's suddenly going to be a lot less keen on coming out and fighting. So if I can rotate my shots around like that and keep pressuring the guys with high HP, it's going to intimidate them and make them timid. And when they're timid, they're going to cower, they're not going to play aggressive, they're not going to be effective, and it'll just make it that much easier for our team to be aggressive and attack. And being aggressive and attacking is almost always the key to winning this game. So I'm letting my teammates deal with that Conqueror, so I decide to go for the high health enemy target. I want to make that E75 cower, and look at that, he is definitely cowering. He wants nothing to do with this battle over here. I just didn't have a very good shot on him right there, so I was kind of holding my fire, looking for something better. Here we go, we got the IS-8. Okay, that was a dodgy shot on his turret, but with the high pen of this gun and the IS-8's kind of mediocre turret armor, I thought that was actually worth it. The E75, unfortunately, did just kill our IS-3, so, you know, you can really criticize me for leaving an Ace's E75 alive. Fire clutch into the side of the E75 and kill him, and Tiger 2 killed by a teammate. We're into the mop-up stages of this battle. A couple of a medium, a French tank, and a tier 8. So no real threats left alive on the enemy team. The idea of what I was just doing, where I aim for the high health target and just try to make him hide. I don't know if that has an official name, but that's a principle that I call horizontal artillery. A lot of the time, a good artillery player in this game won't actually go for kills. They'll go for the highest damage possible. So a lot of the time, a good arty player will actually, if they've got a choice between, say, a Tiger 2 on 300 health and a Tiger 2 on full health, they'll shoot the Tiger 2 on full health because they're using more of their potential damage to hurt the enemy, they're getting more reward for themselves, and they're also crippling 2 tanks instead of crippling 1 tank. So a lot of the time with my big alpha TDs, I will use what I call horizontal artillery as one of my main principles. And unless the target that I'm firing at is so crucial that they have to be killed right now, I will actually ignore a low health target and go for a high health one. It's kind of like a Viet Cong sniper, how they would shoot to wound instead of shooting to kill, because a wounded guy meant more people had to come take care of him. Well, you know, there's no medics in World of Tanks, but there are people like this guy. He took 2 hits from me, and he wanted nothing to do with the battle. He took 1 hit from me, and he didn't really want anything to do with the battle. And then when he took the second hit, he just backed up. So we basically took this guy out of the fight without actually killing him. And then once there was nothing else to do, we just polished him off. So that's something that I do. It's a personal opinion. It is definitely something that people are free to disagree with, the horizontal artillery idea. But I think it's a good idea. It allows you to focus on doing the most damage possible, which is really the job of a tank destroyer, to just do as much damage as possible and allow your guys who have, you know, guns that shoot and do 300, 400 damage, let those guys clean up the guys that are on, you know, 2, 3, 400 health. You know, you're driving around with a 750 damage boomstick. You want to be getting as much DACA out of that as possible. I'm apparently feeling like I'm an orc right now, and I just want to smash things with my boomstick. But I mean, that's kind of what you want to do with this thing. You just want to take the guy with the biggest health and blast away as much of him as possible so that he just doesn't want to play anymore. Alright, so we're loading into a third battle in the Object 704. This is a Tier 9 battle. Just a few Tier 9s per team. The rest of the team is basically tier 8s with a couple of scouts as garnish. We're on Serene Coast. We're on the north side of the map. I think the south side of the map has better positioning, which kind of stinks. So, I've actually been playing Serene Coast a lot lately. Our clan had some land that was on this map, so I was playing Serene Coast quite a bit in Clan Wars. But I really feel like the south side of the map has better positioning still. But anyway, we are one of the big boys in this match. I'm going to go over to the 1-2 line and try to work the hill. That hill is still one of the main terrain features. It's not as high as it used to be, but it still does provide the south team with some awfully good locations. So I'm going to come over and try to work on those guys. I'm not exactly sure where I want to position myself to do it. Thinking behind that big house right there. That looks like a non-destructible building. It looks like it probably gives some pretty good sight lines. And I'd rather shoot around the right side of an obstacle than the left side of an obstacle with this tank, just because the gun is farther to the right than it is to the left. Ooh. Come on, type. You know you want to. Oh, hello, scout tank. Oh, somebody else just blasted him. Alright, I'm going to leave the scout tank for somebody else. Again, kind of the horizontal artillery principle. While that scout's over there, he's not really any threat to me, and he's honestly not really very much threat to anybody else. So I want to be looking for a big boy that I can just cut in half like that IS-6. Ugh, that was a bad shot. Part of the reason why I will hold shots on stuff like that scout tank is because this gun has a long reload, and you have to get the vulnerable targets while they're vulnerable. Like that Lorraine. Gah! And the shot went low and we missed. So we held our shot on the scout in order to get an opportunity to shoot at the IS-6, and we missed. Then we got our next opportunity to shoot, and we missed again. So you can see what I mean about be prepared for just raunchy RNG with this gun. Okay, if the Lorraine backs up, we're going to try and schwack him. Doesn't look like he's going to back up, though. It looks like he's going to YOLO into all of those people, which is really, really stupid. Okay, so this is pretty risky, exposing ourselves a lot to maneuver around. We're looking to see if we have angles on that Pershing, and, okay, I'm going to go and try to get shots on this Conqueror. He's one of the top players on the enemy team. He's in a very forward location. I want to go kill him. Now, the ideal engagement range, in my opinion, for the Object 704 is about 200 to 300 meters, because you don't really have the armor or the mobility for a close quarters fight. So you want to be far enough away that the enemy has to get a little bit of aiming skill in to actually hit you, but you want to be close enough to sort of remove some of the RNG factor of the BL-10. Now, that was a really good example of a shot that I just thought would go in, where apparently I just didn't have the pen. I didn't think I really needed to aim too much at the front of a Conqueror. They're not very heavily armored. And obviously I was wrong, because he penned pretty easily. So we put a massive hit into the lower plate of that E-75 and set him on fire, and he either didn't have a fire extinguisher or he just gave up, because he burned for a lot of his health, and he's coming out for more. I can't say that's the brightest E-75 driver I've ever seen. So we're going to hope that oh, look at that Pershing. Come on, Pershing, give it to me. You want to be opportunistic in this tank to get the biggest damage hits in that you can. If the whole horizontal artillery idea didn't get that across, then pretty much everything else I'm saying right now should. This is a ballsy move. I'm about to rely on the BL-10. Oh, I'm getting shot in the side and I don't know what's doing it. Okay, that was kind of a gutsy move. I don't know what is off to my left, and I just relied on my gun to do almost average damage. Luckily, I penned and did the damage, but that was actually a really risky move. But I want to start getting some aggression in, because, frankly, this match is too close. So we're going to try and aggressively push this E75. He's on low health and he's in a bad position. So we're going to go around the rock and we're going to derp him in the butt. That's the plan. When you get the 704 into a situation like this, the key is just don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop driving forward. Don't stop to aim your shots. Balls. Right as I say that, I glance off the stupid turret. But it's true. If you stop, you will be killed. Unfortunately, you get the downside of everything else. But this E75, oh my word, the RNG of the BL10. That E75 just straight up panicked. He had no idea what was going on. And he backed himself out in front of our team. And our teammates took him out. So, we're going to go down this road. We're going to go onto the peninsula. We're going to start attacking these guys from behind. Ferdinand's over there. The T-34-3 was over there. And he's from Foxy, which is a pretty decent clan. So it's fairly likely that he is also over there. Okay, there's the Ferdinand. We can pen anywhere on him frontally. Whew, that was good. One of the biggest upgrades from the Object 704, or from the ISE 152 to the Object 704, is you get 600 extra health. That T-34-3 is looking straight at me. And the reason why that extra HP is such a bonus is because a lot of the time, the way you fight this tank is you trade health with enemies. Like, you roll around a corner and you say to the enemy tank, alright, you shoot me once, I shoot you once. Oh, you have 2,000 health? Well, you now have 1,300. I had 1,600 health. I now have 1,200. I'm going to win this trading health battle. So because you trade health so much with this tank, having 1,600 health instead of 1,010 is a huge asset. Now, yeah, I did just basically YOLO that guy, and that was honestly fairly stupid, but I just wanted to try and kill him. I knew the match was going to end in a cap, and I just wanted to try and kill him at the end. I didn't really care if he killed me, so, I mean, I could have stayed alive, but what's the fun in that, I guess? I just felt like YOLOing that guy. If it worked, it would have worked, and it would have been awesome, but, meh, it didn't. No big deal. So, we definitely got some good examples in that match of the just ridiculous RNG that you can get with the BL10. We rolled around the corner and shot that E75, and instead of shooting him in the side, we shot him in the turret and bounced. And then we reloaded and we aimed for his lower plate and we hit his track. We bounced off this Conqueror a couple of times, which I'm pretty surprised at. The Conqueror is not a very well-armored tank. But we got, we blasted right through the front of the Ferdinand, just like you would expect. We blasted right through the lower plate of the E50, like you would expect. We also broke his engine. And we shot this E75 in the engine, got his engine, ammo rack, fuel tank, and track, set him on fire, and did 1,379 damage to him. So, I mean, that was a pretty YOLO match. That was kind of a dirty fight. Not really a lot of strategy in that. That was just kind of a match where both teams sort of just bashed their faces against each other, and whoever fell unconscious was the loser. So sometimes that's just how you play this thing. And like I said, the upgrade from 1010 health up to 1,600 health, when you get into those fights where it's just a headbutting match, it allows you to survive in them a lot longer. This thing can be 2-hit killed by a Ferdinand. This thing cannot. It takes 4 hits from a Ferdinand to kill this. So, just, I guess what to take home from this fairly long, Object 704 thing, I guess some of the biggest things to take home from this are, play it. It's all about controlled aggression. You want to be pretty passive at the beginning because your long reload and your relatively poor mobility makes you pretty vulnerable, really. But once the battle is getting, once half the enemy tanks are dead, you can start being a lot more aggressive. Usually by that time, most of the people that are alive are on low enough health that you can fairly consistently one-hit kill them. So you can start taking more chances and being more aggressive. you definitely want to apply principles that you learned with this and with this when you drive the object. Stuff like take cover between reloads. You know, you're not a medium tank. You have bad hull traverse. You don't want to be 5 inches away from the enemy and getting into a turn fight with them because you're probably going to lose. You don't have a lot of armor. This thing, it ain't got any armor. This thing, it ain't got any armor. This thing's got more armor than both, but it still doesn't really have any armor. Like, just count on your gun giving you the maximum. Count on your gun giving you the maximum amount of RNG that is humanly possible, and be conservative up to the point where the battle is kind of turned in your favor, and then you can start to go aggressor mode in this thing. I would definitely advocate the horizontal artillery principle that I talked about. It's part of how you can really get big damage with this thing, because you have the possible maximum damage. You can only do 200 damage when you shoot a 200 HP target. But if you've got a choice between a 200 HP target and the full health D75, you can potentially ammo rack him and one hit kill him. That's a 1 in 100 shot, but it could happen. Anyway, I think horizontal artillery with alpha damage vehicles is really the way to go. Anyway, this has been a long video, a little bit disjointed. That's what you get when I do stuff live, is it gets a little disjointed. And I hope it's been both a combination of entertaining, insightful, and kind of worth watching. I hope it was helpful. Excuse me. I had a good time playing those couple of matches. I only played those 3 matches. I didn't throw any away. So those 3 matches, those were the only ones I did for this. I didn't play 8 matches and had to discard the ones where I got insta-killed by Heshmobiles and artillery, so that's nice. But, guys, anyway, I just hope you enjoy it. Feel free to comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe, comment it up. It's definitely okay with me. And just remember, guys, this is Captain Dorja, and you can never have enough big guns.